about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So I know we're all getting all excited about Halloween. I love this week. And November comes pretty fast, right? It comes right after Halloween. Well, what happens the first Sunday of November? Clocks change. Now, the majority of us are excited about getting that extra hour of sleep. But there's also the majority of Americans saying, why are we still doing this? A Gallup poll earlier this year had said at least 54% of Americans are like, we're done with this. We're done with changing the clocks. So you fall back, and that's why we have the hashtag finish with fall back, as opposed to the spring, you spring forward. So you lose an hour of sleep in the spring, you gain an hour of sleep in the fall. Even though that gaining that extra hour of sleep can help, and we have found some health benefits, fewer car accidents, the spring forward is the opposite. We see higher heart attacks. We see higher workplace incidents. We see higher numbers of accidents. We see fertility issues, depression, suicide rates go up. So I think it's stupid that we're changing the clocks. I think we all are. The problem is I've been complaining about this for years. Is anything getting done? Well, we did have some huge momentum. The Senate had passed, I believe, twice unanimously the Sunshine Protection Act that at the time Senator Marco Rubio had introduced. And it was unanimous. And then the House let it sit. It was like on Nancy Pelosi's desk for a while, and then it just stalled. And why did it stall in the House? Well, because people couldn't decide on standard versus savings. Saving time. Not savings, it's saving time. Saving time is what we're in right now. Standard time is what it switches to. Now, I prefer standard. Not because it's so much extra hour of sleep, because if you remember, I used to be on call, and 2 years in a row I was on call when it was the fall back. So I actually had an extra hour of a 36-hour shift that turned to 37 hours on call. So I'm a little salty on that one. But I do prefer, I feel, better standard time. The problem is when the states have submitted legislation, some are for standard because they agree with a lot of medical experts, and then many are for saving time. So daylight saving time is what Nevada has previously legislated for, California with the Proposition 7 years ago. And so what Congress is worried about, and we'll talk a little bit later this week on where we got here. People blame Benjamin Franklin, but actually daylight saving time had its origins during World War I and then World War II. We called it wartime to help save coal. We're not using coal anymore. It's not really necessary. But one of the reasons why we're still stuck with it is because states couldn't get their act together and be more uniform. And I believe it was Lyndon B. Johnson that came up with the Uniform Time Act to have the states relatively on the same time. Now, Arizona bucked it and said, no, we're not doing this. Hawaii also said, we're not doing this. Now, if Congress does allow the states to pick and choose what they want, it could be a little messy, where some are on standard, some are on savings. Already, it confuses a lot of people as it pertains to, I'm on the Pacific zone, I'm in the Mountain Time Zone, the Central Time Zone, the Atlantic Time Zone, or the Eastern. There's the Eastern Time Zone and then the Atlantic. And I get people are already always confused as to, okay, what time is it over there? But most states want to be in alignment with the states near them. So Missouri and Kansas are going to probably want to be similar. We know that Nevada likes to align with California, and California likes to align with Oregon and Washington. And so I think the states could work together. If the big holdup, because even President Donald Trump had at the start of his presidency told Congress, get this done. The daylight saving, I mean, he can't do an executive order for it, but he even wanted Congress to get it done. It's ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense that we keep doing this. And Trump, his presidency is, being characterized as one where bucking, more archaic, older traditions. And, why are we getting screwed over by other countries? Why are we getting screwed over by tariffs? Why are we paying more for pharmaceuticals in other countries? So, he would love to get credit for this. And I support any move Congress makes to just stop the time changes. I am sick of spring forward and finish with fall back. This fall back, I know it's an extra hour of sleep, but it's not worth it. To me, if we could become more uniform, and people say, well, gosh, it's been tried. Apparently, it was tried before in the 70s, and it didn't work well when they tried to stop the time changes. Well, it's because they changed it in January. They decided to change the time clock in January, and how you do it is you just not change the clock. You don't just do an abrupt change. You just go, you know what? We're not going to change the clock in March. Or we're not going to change the clock next fall. In fact, the way the original legislation is for the Sunshine Act, the Sunshine Protection Act with Marco Rubio, is you do the time change in March and then you're done for good. And then as we get through fall, we just keep doing what we're doing. Now, even though I prefer standard time from a health standpoint and from a better sleep standpoint, many people don't like standard time because it gets dark earlier. Now, I don't mind it getting dark earlier. I like that. Then I get more sleepy. This is why, because people ask, why do the sleep specialists prefer standard? Because if your melatonin can start kicking in and your circadian rhythm can shift where it's darker, if it starts to get dark at 4:35, you could very easily go to bed then by 8:39. But when you live in areas where it's daylight till 9, 10 o'clock, you're not falling asleep till midnight 1, then you're getting up at 6 a.m. the next morning. So, that's why I prefer standard. But listen, I'll take what I could get. I don't care. You guys pass saving versus standard. I just want the time changes to end. But we have a petition. All right. It's on my Twitter and Facebook. Go to that and sign it, share it. You'll see a lot of responses are like, but I like standard, I like saving. That's fine. All the petition asks for is for Congress to just stop the time changes. Okay, our states can figure out what they want to do, but for the most part, it's really not that hard to stop the time changes. We just need Congress to get their acts together. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I've been telling y'all to eat more fish. And then when you ask me, well, how do you cook it? I'm not a good cook. There is no way I would have ever been able to make it through chef school. But I don't have to teach you because I have got some amazing, amazing guests. And I am really excited about this next segment. So seafood lovers, take note. Emmy-winning chef Andrew Zimmern and seafood expert Barton Seaver are teaming up on a new cookbook that's making waves. It's called the Blue Food Cookbook. Delicious seafood recipes for a sustainable future. It's available right now. Andrew and Barton are joining us now to discuss this book and share some tips to help us enjoy seafood sustainably. Very, very, very cool. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Andrew, we're going to start with you. What inspired you to do the Blue Food Cookbook, and what do you want our listeners and readers to take from it?
Well, like Barton, I've spent my life growing up around the water, eating out of the water, living on the water. And as I became older, I began to understand the civic responsibilities involved with this. We can protect our oceans best when we produce out of it. The economic implications for protecting our shoreline, for improving our devastating climate crisis, to improving our personal health, all relies with making seafood the center of the plate protein of choice. But we only eat it very little at home. 75% of the seafood Americans consume is done in restaurants. And so Barton and I wanted to create a cookbook that was accessible, and sexy, and a Bible for seafood for the next 10 years. And that brought us face to face with the issues involved with trying to get people to eat more seafood. And that is all the myths, fresh versus frozen, farmed versus wild. How do I make the best choice? You know, I go into a supermarket, nobody have I ever heard say these words, where's the wild chicken? Chicken and beef gets a free pass. They're some of the most tainted food chains that we have. Seafood has worked tirelessly, domestically and internationally over the last 30 years to improve its reputation, and the systems are clean. Are there some bad actors or some bad problems? Sure, just like anywhere else. It's also more like eating out of the produce aisle. There's hundreds of choices available at any time of year and thousands of species out of the ocean that we eat. So we wanted to create something that was interchangeable as well. This is the seafood book, I think, for people to have on their shelves now and for years to come.
Yes, it is. And it is sexy. I will agree with you. It is a sexy book. Now, you know, we have bird flu, avian flu coming back that's going to be affecting our poultry. And there's such a bias towards chicken and beef. You know, Barton, you have dedicated your career to sustainable seafood. So I love how the book is entitled Blue Food. Talk to us about what blue food means and why it's so important right now.
Sure. Blue food is a term used by the United Nations to encompass more of a conversation, a larger narrative than just the seafood itself that's on your plate, right? And unfortunately, seafood has, I think, rightly earned, to some extent, a bad reputation. Why? Well, because the headlines that we've been seeing, and Andrew was touching on this, you know, the headlines are all negative. And that's true of way too much of our media on every topic these days, right? But what we're not reading, what we're not seeing is the enormous amount of innovation and evolution that's happened in seafood that leads us, Andrew and I, to be evangelists of the ingredient category, to showcase how we can use seafood to create positive public health, environmental, and economic outcomes, as well as just delivering deliciously on dinner. And the title, The Blue Food Cookbook, is sort of a request that people look anew at an ingredient category they think they know, but to see how much incredible outcomes we can accomplish simply through putting more seafood on our plates more often.
Yeah, I like the play on the colors too, because you have green, in terms of climate and land, blue for the ocean. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Andrew, a lot of people love seafood, but I think one of the hesitancies, as you've pointed out, is they don't know if they're going to cook it right. They don't know if they're going to mess it up. They don't know if they're going to cook it properly to avoid health issues. So I love that you have this book to teach people how to do it. It's an easy go-to. Talk to us about some of the recipes that you think somebody like me who needs a cookbook for dummies could do.
Well, I'll tell you, I think all the recipes in the book are doable by anyone because it's been exquisitely researched and tested. And Barton and I are not fancy pants restaurant chefs. At least I haven't been one for a while. We're dads, and these recipes were designed for people who are living real lives in real kitchens. Doesn't require crazy equipment. Barton has recipes for cooking fish out of his toaster oven in there. We're not snobs. We have recipes in there where instead of croutons in a salad, we're using fish sticks. That's absolutely delicious. But you mentioned a lot of different things that all come down to certain types of technique. And we have, probably 24 recipes out of the 145 that are all braised fish recipes. In other words, you make a sauce of some kind, some thin, some thick. The fish is simply placed there in a pan or pot. A lid goes on, or maybe a lid isn't placed on it if you want some evaporation. And 10 minutes later, you're eating dinner. What that allows is for species exchange. If you look at the monkfish in shakshuka recipe, and you go to the market and you say to the person behind the counter, "Hey, I'd like some monkfish," and they say, "Oh, we just sold out," or "Hey, the monkfish isn't as great today as the red snapper." You can take the red snapper home and cook it the exact same way. Cooking in liquid is a little more forgiving than high heat searing or roasting or grilling. You turn around 1 second, and if you miss the timing just right, grilling fish is tricky. I mean, I have a TV show where I'm grilling food over open fire. A lot of it is seafood. I understand that as much as anyone. Braising seafood, much different, and it allows us to do easy family style meals where the pot you cook in goes right to the table and you can dish up dinner. My version of seafood, of tuna noodle casserole is in the book. There's nothing easier than opening up tinned fish and turning it into a healthy, nutritious meal for your family.
Exactly. We are speaking to seafood expert Barton Seaver as well as Emmy-winning chef Andrew Zimmern. So, Barton, to shop for seafood. Now, I mean, I run into the chicken, you got the turkey, you got the steak. How can you make sustainable choices at the grocery store? What tips do you have as we shop for seafood?
The first is to understand that across the board, if we are to decide that seafood is what's for dinner, that right there is a sustainability win when it comes to center of the plate animal proteins. Seafood just has a fin up in the sustainability game when it comes to that. Certainly, we should be looking at the sustainability of the individual products that are in front of us, right? And so much great work has been done by retailers in this country, the vast majority of them, to present to us options that the legwork has already been done, whether it's a certification or a ranking system that they use. Bottom line is most of the seafood available to us at grocery stores, it is a pretty good choice. But you also need to lean into the expertise of the person behind the counter. Why? Because they've committed themselves to this, right? They're in there day in and day out. And the best thing we can do is show up with a little bit of respect and just say, "Hey, I appreciate what you're doing. What's your name?" "Oh, I'm Barton. Hey, could you give me a recommendation for dinner tonight?" And then accept the result. When they say, We've got mussels. They just came in today from Maine. They are plump and juicy, these beautiful blue pearlescent shells. Woo! I mean, just a little bit of red wine, rosemary, some butter, and maybe some butternut squash in there for a nice autumnal dish with some grilled bread, some garlic on that. Ooh, okay,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Did you pick up on some enthusiasm there? Great. Guess what your dish is going to taste like? Goodness, right?
Exactly.
So it's lean into the expertise that's available to you, but also don't shy away from the frozen aisle and the canned seafood aisle. Delicious, affordable, sustainable options are available to us there. We are both huge champions of those, and
Awesome.
that makes it a convenience ingredient that we can pull out on
Love
Tuesday
it.
easy.
Love it. We're coming to the end. Oh, I wish we had more time. Where can my listeners go for more information?
AndrewZimmern.com, book tour information, a preview of the book, recipes, pictures, all the rest of that, as well as one-click stop and shop options for people. Go to your local booksellers or Amazon.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can't wait to have you back.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I'm very excited for our next segment. We have Reverend Dr. Lorenzo Smalls, a pastor who has been diagnosed with RRP, which we're going to talk about, known for his sermons and singings, both of which he carries out without a microphone. And he has been a clinical trial participant in a great treatment. And we have Dr. Simon R. Best, Associate Professor at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, to talk to us about some of the latest and greatest in this. So we are joined by two amazing guests. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Wow, love it, love it. Dr. Best, we're going to start with you. Talk to us about what RRP is and how it affects patients.
Well, thank you. And of course, we're really excited to be able to talk here about RRP, or recurrent respiratory papillomatosis, on behalf of Precigen, which has helped develop a new treatment for this disease. RRP is a chronic HPV infection of the vocal cords caused by HPV type 6 and 11. And it causes papillomas to grow on the vocal cords, which interferes with their vibration, changing a patient's voice. Historically, the only way to treat this was with surgery. We would take patients to the operating room, use lasers or other techniques to remove the papillomas, but it's not addressing the underlying HPV infection. So the papilloma recurs. As a result, patients are in this unending cycle, this loop of surgery recurrence, that of course impacts their voice and breathing.
Dr. Reverend Lorenzo Smalls, you, your work, your career depends on this, and you actually have a personal experience with RRP. Talk to us about how it impacted your life.
Yes, it impacted my life tremendously. Preaching over 34 years and singing and enjoying going in and out of the country. When I was diagnosed with RRP, life as I know it turned upside down. And my voice was no longer vibrant. As a preacher, we know that faith cometh by hearing, but there was nothing to hear. So psychologically, it has had its effect on my life. And so when the clinical trial came into fruition, I was just hopeful. And at this point, I am thankful and just satisfied knowing that the FDA has approved the first ever underlying medication for RRP, and I am just thankful.
Exactly. You know, you opened, Dr. Best, talking about how, up until now it's been surgery. And we know that surgery can cause more scarring, more inflammation. This is a new treatment. And talk to us about how this compares to the previous way to treat this.
Well, you're absolutely right. It doesn't take much to imagine if you've had 5, 10, 50, 100 surgeries on your vocal cords, how that can permanently impact your voice. And indeed, we know that very clearly, that the more surgeries that you have for this condition, the greater the chance of having permanent voice problems. So Pabzimios is a new treatment that's approved for adults with RRP, and it's an HPV-specific immunotherapy. What it's designed to do is designed to raise immune response specific against the HPV virus, which can circulate throughout your body and attack those cells that contain the HPV virus, those cells on the vocal cords that grow and become papillomas. So it's really addressing this disease at its root cause rather than just debulking surgeries, which of course carry a huge toll for patients. Exactly.
And Reverend, you sound amazing. What did it mean to you to be able to participate in this clinical trial, and how you were able to respond and treat this? Talk to us about that.
Well, to participate, I was excited, overwhelmed, simply because my papillomas being reoccurring, repeatedly going for the surgery, while I was thankful, but yet deep down I was still traumatized. So when the information came with the clinical trial, and it was just like a joyous daybreak for me, because as a pastor, that's my life. So I want to share with anyone that's going through. I've had about 10 to 11 surgery, and as of September the 30th of 2021 was my last surgery, and for 4 years straight, I am free of everything, and I am excited, and I am overwhelmed that I don't have to whisper no more. I can finally preach.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We need that. We know you have, you're short on time, and we are so glad you got to spend time with us. Where can my listeners go for more information?
Well, there's a lot of great information about RRP, recurrent respiratory papillomatosis, and Pabzimios, the new medication, on the Precigen website, which is precigen.com.
Wonderful. Oh, I honestly, Dr. Best, we are so glad you came on. Reverend Dr. Lorenzo Smalls, we can't wait to hear your sermons again, and I am so excited you guys were able to share this with us. Can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
God bless. Take care. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one thing that I really get excited about is when we go to the core of things. HPV, human papillomavirus, I call it newly discovered because it was new when I was in medical school. Now, I was in medical school in the 90s, but I remember looking at old student notes from the late 80s talking about how cervical cancer you wouldn't see in nuns or Orthodox Jews. And they didn't know at the time in the 80s that much about HPV, but they were looking at groups of individuals who were not getting cervical cancer, and they were putting their finger on the cause, that you could see them working around that by looking at groups. So what was it? Well, maybe it's because they didn't have premarital sex, or was it linked to sexual activity, etc. And so HPV is one of the newer. I know it kind of doesn't seem like that because we've been studying pathogens for decades, centuries now. But HPV was one of the newer viruses, and now we've known about it now for multiple decades, nearly 50 years or 40 years. But viruses can cause recurrent issues, like we see with COVID, like we see with hepatitis, like we see with HIV, like we see with herpes. And so, we oftentimes will debulk or address the tumors or the growths and to be able to get to the root of something, to me, is, I think, the heart of medicine. With diabetes, you could treat the low insulin, and you could we're talking in terms of type 2 diabetes, and you could treat the help lower the blood sugar. But how are we addressing the insulin resistance? How are we going to make your insulin more sensitive? What can we do so that you don't have to rely on the medicine as much? And this type of care, or this type of thinking, is I think going to be how we also attack cancer. What we do with cancer is we find the cancerous cells and we try to attack the cancerous cells. But what about the process that is feeding the cancer? Now, oxygen feeds the cancer. We can't stop that. Sugar feeds cancer. I mean, you got to eat. But what if there's another process? And we are discovering that there are processes that are communicating with cancer cells to make them do what they do. That is, I think, the newest way to attack a lot of our medical conditions that we have. Going to the source, 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. We are watching one of the most intense Atlantic hurricanes on record as Melissa barreled through Jamaica, causing major damage. hundreds of thousands of people wake up without power today. Most of the island. We still don't have a full picture of the extent of devastation. But Hurricane Melissa then went on to attack Cuba. And we are being told that Cuba has suffered significant damage as well. In Cuba, about 140,000 people are cut off by rising river levels. And the storm is now heading towards the Bahamas. We are being told from CNN that at least 25 people have died in Petit Goave, Haiti, after a river flooded by Melissa and burst through its banks, according to a local mayor. 3 people were killed earlier in Haiti, and then another 3 had died in Jamaica during storm preparations. 1 person dead in the Dominican Republic that happened, I believe, 2 days before. And so we do not believe that Hurricane Melissa is going to turn around and affect the United States. Of course, outer bands were felt in Florida, and Florida had some flooding. But we do hope it goes off into the Atlantic and then just dissipates, never to come back. This thing was horrible. The winds were way beyond the Category 5 of 157 miles per hour. They were up to the 180s. And now they are seeing hurricane force winds extending outwards 40 miles from her center, 30 miles earlier this morning. And it is showing that it is able to intensify. And in fact, it did. After hitting Jamaica, it re-intensified. And I believe it hit Cuba as a Category 3. So Jamaica says at this point, and this is in the last hour or so, they cannot provide an update yet. Absolutely, we understand. They got, they have to do what they can to find, victims and help them. But pictures that are coming in is just showing utter devastation. I'm not sure how the 3 people died during storm preparations, if they were, trying to mend roofs or we'll learn more about that. But Desmond McKenzie, Minister for Local Government and Community Development, told in a news conference today that, quote, we have not had alerts of any deaths so far. But we cannot presume, they said we cannot presume that there are deaths. But obviously it's early, so hopefully not. The eye of the hurricane passed over Jamaica's more rural western parishes, while the capital, Kingston, was spared the worst of the storm. Now, interestingly, CNN says that National Hurricane Center's forecasts for Melissa have been unusually accurate. Now, that's interesting. I thought the National Hurricane Centers were pretty accurate. But they say that the NHC had a 3-day lead time in predicting that Melissa would rapidly intensify. The storm was not even a hurricane at the time. And the National Hurricane Center, way to go, provided 36 hours of lead time that the storm was going to turn into a Category 5 when it was only at a Category 1, about 70 mile per hour winds at the time. 4 days before landfall, the National Hurricane Center predicted that the eye of the storm would come ashore western Jamaica as a Category 4 with maximum sustained winds of 150. Now, Melissa at the time was only 45 miles per hour. They say the forecast track was also off by only 13 miles, far below the typical error range. When the NHC began predicting the storm, that it would intensify to a Category 5, then other forecasts predicted that as well. And they believe that maybe what has been playing a role in this is AI. They say the new addition of AI forecast models, particularly according to CNN, the Google DeepMind model, may have helped bolster the knowledge and confidence of forecasters to issue these specific predictions so far in advance and stick with them. We talked about how the Great Galveston hurricane of 1900 killed 10,000 people. And in 1900s, you didn't have the warnings like we do now. I mean, Hurricane Katrina, we had warnings, but it was 2005. And, it came in, it didn't move quickly, it hovered and broke through levees and caused thousands of people to die and billions of dollars of damage, but it could have been worse without warnings. It just, do people, take the warnings? I know with Chris Christie, when he was governor of New Jersey, when I believe Superstorm Sandy was coming, he was telling everybody to get the blank out. He'll listen to us and get out. I have family in Florida, and usually they don't leave. Now, they're not on the coast. They're a little bit inland, but the warnings that we get are life-saving. And I'm really, really grateful that the National Hurricane Center has, been able to even up its game. Jamaica, you're stuck on an island. It's not really easy. For Florida, you could at least drive up the peninsula, drive, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. You're able to move to other states and get to drier ground. A little bit more difficult when you're in the Caribbean. But you hear people, not leave. And we've talked about why some people choose not to leave. And it's, do you deal with the devil you know or the devil you don't? And as much as I am urging people to always follow the recommendations of the government, when it comes to these natural disasters, especially these hurricane center, I understand everybody thinks politics is underlined, but to be honest, it doesn't help any politician when you have to leave, when you have to find safer ground. It helps the country as a whole for you to be safe. And so when people don't leave, and you see in the media, like, well, people didn't want to leave. They didn't want to leave. They're stupid. They're this. Ask the individuals why. And talking to my family members, when they say, look, I got young kids, to be stuck on a highway, run out of gas, or run out of electricity when you have kids, at least I feel like I could protect the kids better in our own home. I got food. I got water. We're not going to be stranded. We're not going to be carjacked. We're not going to be, these are things that people think about. It's not that they just want to give the finger to authority. It's, well, where do I go? If you told me, and I was living paycheck to paycheck, that I needed to leave my home and go and get a hotel when the rest of the state or the country was trying to find hotels to stay at in higher ground, and I get told the website, nothing available, and where do you go? Where do you fly? Our airport's going to be closed because of the storm. And so, I know there's going to be a lot of there always is every hurricane season. People didn't evacuate when they should have, or they didn't. There's only so much you could do. I do, though, commend what Governor DeSantis did last year, telling people that their electric vehicles can be a risk and a big fire risk if they get flooded, and to move them to higher ground and get them out of your house so your house doesn't catch on fire. I don't recall Governor Newsom giving that same advice during the Pacific Palisades fires, which also could be fueled and fire recovery and addressing and extinguishing these fires when you have electric vehicles in your house. I think California should have also added that. And maybe they did. I just never saw it. But for those individuals with electric vehicles, if there's a storm coming, you got to get that electric vehicle as far away from your house into, an open area, because water and electric vehicles don't do well. Fire and electric vehicles don't do well. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.